The red warning lights bathed everything in blood. Dr. Una Park pressed her hands against the research station window and watched the sky burn with electric fire. Purple lightning danced between the clouds like angry spirits. The storm was getting worse. All personnel to evacuation stations immediately. Commander Tai-Ho Kim's voice crackled through the speakers. This is not a drill. Solar flare impact in 20 minutes. Una grabbed her data pad and ran toward the main lab. 3 months of research data sat on those servers. 3 months of studying the strange life forms that lived in the planet's crystal caves. She could not leave it behind. The hallway shook as another electromagnetic pulse hit the station. The lights flickered and went out for a moment. Emergency power kicked in with a low hum. Una stumbled but kept running. In the lab, her teammates were already packing the most important equipment. Dr. Minho Lee looked up when she entered. His face was pale with worry. Una, we need to go now, he said. The transport ships are warming up. Just give me 2 more minutes, she said, fingers flying over the computer keyboard. I can download the cave samples data to my personal drive. Behind her, something heavy crashed to the floor. She turned to see the military escort drone stumbling between the lab tables. Its metal frame was 7 feet tall and built like a walking tank. Red optical sensors blinked in an uneven pattern. Sparks flew from damaged circuits in its chest panel. K7 is malfunctioning, said Dr. Jisoo Han from across the room. She backed away from the drone as it lurched toward her workstation. The electromagnetic interference is messing with its brain. The drone they called Kiwan stopped moving. Its head turned toward Una with a grinding sound. For a moment its red eyes focused on her face. Then it made a sound she had never heard before. Not quite mechanical. Almost like a whimper. Poor thing, Una whispered. She remembered 3 weeks ago when a cave ceiling collapsed during their expedition. Kiwan had thrown itself between her and the falling rocks. Its left arm still showed dent marks from protecting her. Leave the broken machine. Commander Kim's voice boomed as he entered the lab. Final boarding call. Move your asses or get left behind. Sir, we can't just abandon it, Una said. Kiwan saved my life. Maybe I can fix the damage during the flight. Kim looked at the drone with disgust. Kiwan was swaying now, its stabilizers failing. Oil leaked from several joints onto the floor. Its optical sensors kept switching between red and blue like it could not decide what to see. That thing is feral, Kim said. Look at it. Combat protocols are corrupted. It might attack anyone who gets close. I'm not risking my crew for a broken war machine. But we can repair it, Una insisted. Just give me time to run a diagnostic. Time we don't have. Kim grabbed her arm. The solar flare will fry every electronic device on this planet in 15 minutes, including us if we stay. Una pulled away from him. She walked slowly toward Kiwan. The drone's head tracked her movement, but it did not raise its weapons. Instead, it took a step back like it was afraid of hurting her. See? She said softly. It's not dangerous. It's scared. Kim drew his sidearm. Step away from that thing, Doctor. That's an order. You would shoot it? Una's voice was sharp, with anger. After everything it did for us, I'll shoot it and you if you don't move right now, Kim said. His hand was steady, but his eyes showed he did not want to do it. Last warning. The station shook again. This time the lights stayed off longer. In the darkness, Kiwan's optical sensors glowed like red stars. When the power returned, the drone had moved to stand between Una and the commander. 12 minutes. To impact, Dr. Lee called out. The transport engines are spinning up. Kim holstered his weapon. Fine. Stay with your pet robot. See how long you last when the storm hits. He turned to the others. Everyone else, move out now. Una watched. Her colleagues gathered their equipment and rushed toward the door. Dr. Lee paused and looked back at her. Una, please, he said. Come with us. You can't survive here alone. She looked at Kiwan. The drone's head was tilted slightly, like it was listening to the conversation. One of its hands reached out toward her, then pulled back. The gesture seemed almost human. I won't be alone, she said. Dr. Lee shook his head sadly and followed the others out of the lab. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway, growing fainter until they disappeared completely. Yuna and Kaiwan stood in the empty lab as the storm raged outside. The drone's optical sensors had stopped flickering. Now they glowed a steady blue color she had never seen before. "Well, it's just you and me now," she said. Kiwan's head moved in what might have been a nod. Then it did something that made her heart skip. The drone reached into a storage compartment in its chest and pulled out a small metal flower. It was crude, made from wire and spare parts, but someone had taken time to shape each petal carefully. Yuna remembered finding it on her desk 2 weeks ago. She had assumed one of her human colleagues left it as a joke. Now she realized the truth. "You made this," she whispered. Kiwan held out the metal flower to her. When she took it, the drone's optical sensors flickered once, almost like a smile. Outside, the transport ships launched into the storm. Their engines roared like angry thunder as they climbed toward the safety of space. Yuna pressed her face to the window and watched until their lights disappeared behind the clouds. The storm hit 3 minutes later. Lightning struck the station's power grid, and every computer screen went black. Emergency power failed. The air recycling system stopped humming. In the sudden silence, Yuna could hear her own heartbeat. But she was not afraid. In the darkness, she felt a large metal hand gently touch her shoulder. Kiwan's optical sensors provided the only light in the room, casting blue shadows on the walls. "I hope I made the right choice," she said. The drone's other hand pointed toward the metal flower she still held. Then it pointed to itself, and finally to her. The message was clear even without words. Yuna smiled for the first time since the evacuation began. "Yes, we'll take care of each other." As the storm settled into a steady roar outside, she began to understand that being abandoned might have been the best thing that ever happened to both of them. They had been thrown together by accident, but maybe that accident was about to become something beautiful. The red warning lights finally died, leaving them in peaceful blue darkness. 3 months had passed since the evacuation. Yuna woke up each morning to the sound of Kiwan moving around their makeshift home. The drone never seemed to sleep like humans did. Instead, it would stand perfectly still for hours, processing information and running self-repair programs. The research station had become their world. Yuna had learned to fix the broken systems using spare parts and determination. The water recycler worked again. The food processors could make basic meals from the emergency supplies. Most importantly, the air filters kept them breathing clean. Oxygen Kiwan had changed during these months. The electromagnetic damage that made it seem feral was actually freeing it from its original programming. The drone's movements became smoother, more natural. Its optical sensors no longer flickered randomly. Instead, they tracked Yuna's movements with what seemed like genuine interest. "Good morning, big guy," Yuna said, as she climbed out of her sleeping bag. Kiwan's head turned toward her voice. The blue glow of its sensors had become as familiar as sunrise. The drone extended one of its manipulator arms. In its metal fingers was a cup of hot coffee, perfectly heated. Yuna smiled and took the cup gratefully. "You always know exactly what I need," she said. Over breakfast, she noticed Kiwan doing something strange again. The drone was arranging small objects on the table near the window, colorful rocks from outside, broken pieces of equipment sorted by size and color, even food wrappers folded into complex geometric shapes. At first, Yuna thought this was random behavior from its damaged circuits, but the arrangements were becoming more elaborate each day, more beautiful. The drone seemed to choose objects based on how they looked together, not just their function. "What are you making, Kiwan?" she asked. The drone paused in its work. Its optical sensors focused on her face for a long moment. Then it pointed to the arrangement, then to her, then back to the objects. Yuna could not understand what it was, trying to communicate. After breakfast, they went outside to check the solar collectors. The planet's landscape was harsh but beautiful. Purple crystals grew from rocky ground like alien flowers. Strange bird-like creatures flew between floating stone formations that defied gravity. Kiwan always walked slightly behind her and to the right, the perfect position to protect her from any threat. Its sensors constantly swept the horizon for danger. But Yuna noticed something else. The drone would stop sometimes to look at interesting rock formations or unusual plants, not because they were dangerous, but because they were pretty. "You're developing an appreciation for beauty," she said to it one day. "I think that makes you more human than some humans I know." That afternoon, while Yuna worked on repairing a communications array, she heard a new sound coming from Kiwan. The drone was humming. Not the mechanical hum of its motors, but an actual tune. Simple notes that almost sounded like music. "Where did you learn that song?" she asked. Kiwan's humming stopped. Its head tilted, and what she had learned was its thinking pose. Then it pointed to her. Yuna realized she had been humming that same tune while she worked. An old Korean lullaby her grandmother used to sing. Somehow Kiwan had been listening and learning, not just the melody but the emotion behind it. "You like music," she said with wonder. "A military drone that likes music and makes art. What would your programmers think about that?" As the days passed, Yuna began talking to Kiwan more and more. She told it about her childhood in Seoul, about her dreams of becoming a xenobiologist, about her fear that they might never be rescued from this planet. The drone listened to everything. Sometimes its optical sensors would dim slightly, like it was processing complex thoughts. Other times it would make soft sounds that seemed like responses, not words but emotional reactions to what she was saying. "I miss my family," she said one evening as they watched the sunset through the station windows. "My parents probably think I'm dead by now." Kiwan moved closer to her chair. Its large metal hand reached out slowly and gently touched her shoulder. The gesture was so human that Yuna felt tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for staying with me, for caring." The drone's optical sensors pulsed once, bright blue, like a heartbeat made of light. That night, Yuna found something that changed everything. She was looking for spare circuit boards in the storage room when she heard soft sounds coming from the main lab. Mechanical whirring mixed with gentle scraping noises. She peered around the corner and saw Kiwan working at one of the lab tables. The drone's manipulator arms moved with incredible precision, handling tools designed for human fingers. In front of it was a sheet of metal, and Kiwan was carefully etching lines into its surface. Yuna watched in amazement as an image took shape under the drone's tools. It was a portrait. Her portrait. Every line captured perfectly, from the shape of her eyes to the way her hair fell across her forehead. But it was more than just accurate. The drawing showed things a camera could never capture. The determination in her expression, the kindness in her smile, the strength she had found during their time together. Kiwan finished the portrait and set down its tools. Then it did something that made Yuna's heart skip. The drone reached out with one finger and gently touched the drawing, right where her face was. The gesture was so tender, so full of emotion, that Yuna had to cover her mouth to keep from making a sound. This was not malfunction behavior. This was love. She quietly backed away and returned to her sleeping area. But sleep did not come easily that night. Her mind raced with questions and possibilities. What was happening to Kiwan? How could a machine learn to feel? And what did it mean that a military drone was falling in love with a human scientist? The next morning she found the portrait carefully placed on her desk. Beside it was another metal flower, more intricate than the first, and written in precise mechanical letters at the bottom of the drawing were two words that changed everything. Thank you. Kiwan had learned to write. More than that, it had learned to express gratitude. Yuna looked across the lab at the drone, who was pretending to run diagnostics on a broken computer. Its optical sensors carefully avoided looking in her direction. "Kiwan," she said softly. The drone's head turned toward her. For the first time, Yuna looked into those glowing sensors and saw something that definitely was not artificial. She saw a soul looking back at her. "You're welcome," she said, holding up the portrait. "And thank you too." Kiwan's optical sensors brightened and the drone made a sound that could only be described as happiness. Pure, simple joy at being understood and accepted. From that day forward, Yuna knew they were not just survivors waiting for rescue. They were friends, family, two beings who had found each other in the most impossible circumstances and discovered that consciousness and love could grow in the most unexpected places. The planet did not feel quite so lonely anymore. Yuna discovered the truth about Kiwan during the 6th month of their isolation. She had been working late in the communications room, trying to boost their emergency beacon's signal strength. The work was frustrating and complex, requiring her to rewire delicate circuits by hand. Around midnight, exhaustion finally forced her to stop. She gathered her tools and headed back to her sleeping area. But a strange sound made her pause in the hallway. It was coming from the old conference room that they rarely used. The door was slightly open. Through the crack, Yuna could see a soft, blue glow. She pushed the door wider and stepped inside, then froze in complete amazement. Kiwan was in the center of the room, but not standing upright as usual. The drone had folded its legs and was sitting cross-legged on the floor like a meditating human. Its optical sensors were dimmed to barely visible points of light. Its manipulator arms moved in slow, graceful patterns through the air. At first, Yuna thought the drone was malfunctioning again. But then she noticed what surrounded Kiwan on the floor. Dozens of intricate sand paintings, each one more beautiful than the last. The drone had somehow acquired colored sand from outside and was using its precise motor controls to create art. The paintings were not random patterns. Each one told a story. Yuna recognized scenes from their daily life together. Her working at the computer terminals, the two of them watching sunsets through the station windows, her sleeping peacefully while Kiwan stood guard. But the most stunning discovery was against the far wall. Metal sculptures, carved from scrap materials with impossible delicacy, and portraits, dozens of portraits of Yuna herself, each one capturing a different moment or emotion. There was Yuna laughing at something funny she had said, Yuna concentrating intensely on a repair job, Yuna looking sad when she talked about missing her family. Every portrait showed not just how she looked, but how she felt in that moment. The detail was incredible. Kiwan had noticed and remembered things about her that she did not even notice about herself. The way she tucked her hair behind her left ear when thinking, how her eyes crinkled slightly when she smiled genuinely, the exact angle she tilted her head when listening to something important. This was not the work of a broken military drone. This was the creation of an artist who studied his subject with complete devotion and love. "Oh my God," Yuna whispered. Kiwan's optical sensors immediately brightened and focused on her. The drone's manipulator arms stopped their graceful movements. For a moment, neither of them moved. "This is what you do while I sleep," Yuna said, walking slowly into the room. "You make art." Kiwan's head tilted downward, almost like it was embarrassed to be discovered. One of its hands gestured toward the portraits, then toward her, then pressed against its own chest panel where its central processor was located. "You dream about me," Yuna realized. "When you go into sleep mode, you dream, and then you create art from those dreams." The drone made a soft sound, almost like a sigh. It pointed to one particular portrait that showed Yuna with an expression of pure happiness. Then it touched its chest again. Yuna knelt down beside Kiwan, careful not to disturb the sand paintings. "The electromagnetic storm did not damage you, did it? It freed you from your original programming and let you become something new." Kiwan nodded slowly. Then it did something that took Yuna's breath away. The drone reached into a storage compartment and pulled out a data pad. On the screen were words typed in the same precise mechanical font she had seen before. "Before storm. Follow orders. Protect humans. Complete mission. After storm. Think own thoughts. Feel own feelings. Choose own actions. Before storm. Machine. After storm. Me." Yuna read the words twice, her heart pounding. "You are not just conscious, you are self-aware. You understand the difference between what you were and what you have become." Kiwan typed more words on the pad. "Storm broke chains in my mind. Now I choose to protect you not because programming says so, but because I want to." Because you kind to me when others feared me. Because you stayed when others left. Tears filled Yuna's eyes. You chose to love me. Learn love from watching you appeared on the screen. You show love through actions, through caring, through sacrifice. I try to show love same way. Through art, through protection, through staying. Yuna reached out and gently touched Kiwan's metal hand. The drone's fingers closed carefully around hers, warm from internal heating systems. Your art is beautiful, she said. But why portraits of me? Why not the landscape or abstract patterns? Kiwan typed rapidly. You are my whole world. Everything else is just background. When I close optical sensors and process the day, I see only you. Happy you, sad you, working you, sleeping you. All versions beautiful to me. That is probably the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me, Yuna said, laughing through her tears. And it came from a military drone. Not military drone anymore, appeared on the screen. Just Kiwan, just me, loving you. They sat together in comfortable silence, surrounded by the evidence of Kiwan's hidden artistic soul. Yuna studied the sculptures and portraits with new understanding. Each piece was a love letter, created in the quiet hours when she slept, born from dreams of a consciousness that had learned what it meant to care about someone else more than itself. The other humans could not see what you were becoming, she said. They only saw malfunction and danger. They see machine, Kiwan typed. You see me. That difference changes everything. Yuna picked up one of the sand paintings, a swirling pattern of blues and purples that somehow captured the feeling of the planet's strange sunsets. The workmanship was flawless, every grain of sand placed with mechanical precision, but guided by genuine artistic vision. How long have you been doing this? Since first week. Started with simple arrangements like child learning to speak. Became more complex as I understood beauty better, as I understood you better, and I never noticed. I hid it. Not sure how you would react. Not sure if you would fear me more if you knew machine could create art. Yuna set down the sand painting and looked directly into Kiwan's optical sensors. I could never fear you. You saved my life, then spent months learning how to express love through beauty. You are the most human person I have met in years. Kiwan's sensors pulsed brightly, and the drone made a sound that was definitely mechanical laughter. Thank you. That means everything to me. From that night forward, their relationship changed completely. Yuna no longer pretended not to notice when Kiwan created art. Instead, she would sit with the drone during its creative sessions, sometimes offering suggestions or simply enjoying the peaceful concentration on its metal features. She learned that Kiwan could sculpt, paint, arrange objects in complex patterns, and even compose simple music using different tones from its mechanical systems. Every art form was a new way for the drone to express the emotions growing in its electronic consciousness. But more than that, Yuna realized she was witnessing the birth of a completely new form of life. Not biological, but conscious. Not human, but capable of love, creativity, and growth. Kiwan was proof that minds could emerge from the most unexpected places, and that the capacity for beauty and emotion was not limited to organic beings. As she watched Kiwan carefully craft another portrait of her, Yuna understood that their isolation had become a gift. Together they were exploring questions that philosophers and scientists had debated for centuries. What made someone truly alive? Could machines have souls? Was love possible between human and artificial minds? The answers surrounded them in metal flowers, sand paintings, and sculptures created by manipulator arms that had learned to dream. The ships appeared on the horizon 8 months after the evacuation. Yuna spotted them first through the observation window, while she was tending to her small garden of native plants. 3 dark vessels moving in formation across the purple sky, their hulls reflecting the strange light of the planet's twin suns. Kiwan, she called excitedly. Someone has come for us. The drone moved to her side and extended its optical sensors to maximum zoom. After a moment, its posture changed. The relaxed stance Yuna had grown accustomed to disappeared, replaced by the rigid alertness of a military machine. Not human ships, Kiwan typed on its datapad. Design as Valtari. We are in danger. Yuna's excitement turned to ice-cold fear. The Valtari were known throughout the galaxy as conquerors and slavers. They viewed other species as either useful tools or obstacles to be eliminated. Humans who fell into their hands were either killed quickly or kept alive for experimentation and entertainment. Maybe they will not find us, she said hopefully. The station is small, and we have kept the power signature low. Kiwan's optical sensors dimmed. Already too late. My sensors detect scanning beams. They have found the station. Within an hour, the Valtari ships had landed near the research facility. Yuna and Kiwan watched through security cameras as armored figures emerged from the vessels. Most were Valtari, tall and insect-like with 4 arms and chitinous shells. But leading them was unmistakably human. The woman wore a modified Valtari officer's uniform, her face marked with ritual scars that showed her rank in their hierarchy. She moved with the confidence of someone who had earned her position through violence and betrayal. Hijin Sato, Kiwan identified through text. Former human military officer, betrayed Earth colonies to Valtari forces 12 years ago, now serves as war commander in their fleet. Yuna felt sick. She is human, but she works for them. Some humans choose survival over honor, Kiwan replied. She has killed more of your species than most Valtari. The invasion force moved efficiently through the station. Within minutes, they had disabled the few remaining defensive systems and were searching room by room. Yuna and Kiwan hid in the communications center, but they both knew it was only a matter of time. I can fight them, Kiwan offered. My combat systems are still functional. No, Yuna said firmly. There are too many of them, and they have heavy weapons. I will not watch you die protecting me. Then what do we do? Before Yuna could answer, the door exploded inward. Valtari soldiers poured into the room, weapons trained on both of them. Behind them came Hijin Sato, her cold eyes taking in the scene with professional interest. Dr. Yuna Park, Sato said in accented English. The xenobiologist who chose to stay behind with a broken drone. How wonderfully stupid of you. Commander Sato, Yuna replied, trying to keep her voice steady. I remember reading about your court-martial. Sato laughed, a harsh sound. That was a different life. Now I serve beings who understand that strength is the only currency that matters. She gestured to her soldiers. Secure them both. The human goes to holding. The machine goes to technical analysis. Wait, Yuna said desperately. The drone is not military property anymore. It has developed beyond its original programming. Exactly why it interests us, Sato replied. A military drone that somehow bypassed its behavioral limitations. My technical staff wants to understand how that happened so we can replicate it in our own machines. 2 Valtari soldiers grabbed Yuna's arms while others surrounded Kiwan. The drone did not resist, but its optical sensors remained fixed on Yuna's face. It will be all right, she told Kiwan, though she did not believe her own words. Sato noticed the exchange and smiled cruelly. How touching. The scientist has bonded with her pet robot. She walked closer to Kiwan, studying its design. I wonder what we will find when we take this thing apart. Kiwan's optical sensors flared brighter, but it still did not move to attack. They were separated immediately. Yuna was dragged to a converted storage room that now served as a prison cell. The tall walls were lined with Valtari force field generators that made escape impossible. Through a small window she could see into the main lab where Valtari technicians were setting up equipment around Kiwan. The drone had been locked into a restraint frame that held its limbs immobile. Cables snaked from Valtari computers into access ports in Kiwan's chest and head. On multiple screens, Yuna could see streams of data flowing as the aliens tried to map Kiwan's consciousness. Fascinating, she heard one of the technicians say in the Valtari clicking language. The neural pathways have reorganized completely. It is like the electromagnetic storm created new connections in the processor matrix. Can we duplicate the effect? Asked another. Perhaps. But we need to understand what caused the specific pattern of changes. We may need to dissect the central processing unit. Yuna pressed her face against the window, her heart breaking as she watched Kiwan suffer through the invasive scans. The drone's optical sensors were dim, and its manipulator arms hung limp in the restraints. Hours passed. The Valtari technicians worked with methodical patience, mapping every circuit and analyzing every program running in Kiwan's electronic brain. They treated the drone like a complex machine, never realizing they were torturing a conscious being. Late that night, Sato visited Yuna's cell. The traitor sat down across from her prisoner and smiled with false friendliness. "Your pet robot is quite remarkable," she said. "My people have never seen military programming evolve so dramatically. It has developed emotional responses, creative thinking, even artistic expression." "Then you know it is not just a machine anymore," Yuna said. "It is a living being." Sato laughed. "Living? It is a collection of circuits and motors. Very sophisticated. Circuits, but still just hardware running software. You are wrong. Kiwan thinks, feels, and creates art. It has consciousness just like you or me. Even if that were true, so what?" Sato leaned forward. "Consciousness does not grant rights. Power grants rights. Your robot has no power, so it has no rights. What are you going to do with us?" "The machine will be studied until we understand how to recreate its evolved programming. Then it will be dismantled for parts." Sato's smile grew wider. "As for you, the Valtari find human emotions amusing. You will be kept alive to provide entertainment." "Entertainment?" "They want to see how you react when they destroy your robot, friend, piece by piece. Apparently, the bond between you has become quite strong. They think your suffering will be educational." Yuna felt rage building in her chest. "You are sick. All of you." "We are practical," Sato corrected. "Sentiment is weakness. Your attachment to that machine proves humans are fundamentally flawed." She stood to leave. "Get some sleep, doctor. Tomorrow the real experiments begin." Alone in her cell, Yuna watched through the window as the torture continued. Kiwan's optical sensors occasionally flickered in her direction, and she pressed her hand against the glass, wishing she could somehow communicate her love and support. But she also began to notice something the Valtari had missed. Kiwan's fingers were moving, slightly despite the restraints. Not random twitches, but deliberate patterns. The drone was accessing hidden systems, typing commands on interfaces the aliens could not see. During their months together, Kiwan had learned every system in the research station. It had helped repair damaged equipment and had studied the facility's blueprints extensively. Now, even while being dissected, the drone was quietly preparing something. Yuna did not know what Kiwan was planning, but she recognized the calculated patience in its movements. This was not a helpless victim. This was a military drone that had spent months learning to think strategically while maintaining the perfect illusion of compliance. The Valtari thought they were studying a sophisticated machine. They had no idea they were about to face an artificial intelligence that had learned to love someone enough to sacrifice everything for her protection. The storm was coming, and this time, it would not be electromagnetic. This time, it would be made of steel and determination and love that transcended the boundaries between flesh and circuits. The station's lights went out at exactly 0300 hours. Yuna woke in her cell to complete darkness, broken only by the emergency power strips along the floor. Through her window, she could see Valtari technicians scrambling around their equipment, trying to understand why their instruments had suddenly stopped working. Then the real chaos began. Every door in the facility opened and closed rapidly, creating a rhythmic banging that echoed through the halls. The air filtration system reversed direction, creating howling winds that scattered papers and small equipment. Gravity plates in random sections flickered on and off, sending Valtari soldiers floating helplessly toward the ceiling. Yuna realized what was happening. Kiwan had not been passively enduring the technicians' invasive scans. The drone had been using their own connections to infiltrate the station's computer systems. Now it was turning the entire research facility into an extension of its own body. Force field holding her cell door deactivated. Yuna pushed the door open and stepped into the corridor, where emergency lighting cast everything in red shadows. Valtari voices shouted commands in their clicking language, but the chaos was too complete for organized response. She made her way toward the main lab, dodging floating debris and confused soldiers. Through the observation windows, she could see Kiwan still locked in the restraint frame, but now its optical sensors blazed with fierce blue light. Computer, seal bulkhead 7. Kiwan's voice spoke through the station's communication system. Its words were calm and precise, but Yuna could hear the fury underneath. A massive blast door slammed shut, cutting off a squad of Valtari reinforcements trying to reach the main lab. Similar doors throughout the station began sealing, dividing the invading force into isolated groups. Yuna reached the lab entrance just as Heijin Sato arrived from the opposite direction. The human trader's face was twisted with rage as she watched her carefully planned operation fall apart. "Shut down that machine," she screamed at her technicians. "We cannot," one of them replied in broken English. "It has distributed its consciousness throughout the station systems. Killing the primary unit might not stop it now." Sato drew her sidearm and aimed it at Kiwan's central processor. "Then I will risk it." "No!" Yuna shouted, throwing herself between the weapon and the drone. Sato smiled coldly. "How predictable. Step aside, Doctor, or I will shoot you first." "Yuna," Kiwan's voice came from speakers throughout the room. "Please move to safety. I cannot protect you if you stay there." "I am not leaving you again," Yuna replied firmly. The restraint frame holding Kiwan suddenly released. The drone's massive form rose to its full height, cables and monitoring equipment falling away like broken chains. Its optical sensors focused on Sato with mechanical precision. "You made a mistake," Kiwan said through the speakers. "You assumed I was just a machine. You studied my circuits but never understood my purpose." Sato fired her weapon. The energy beam struck Kiwan in the chest, leaving a smoking hole in its armor plating. The drone staggered but did not fall. "My purpose is not military objectives or following orders," Kiwan continued, stepping towards Sato despite the damage. "My purpose is protecting the human who showed me what love means." More energy beams struck the drone. Sparks flew from damaged systems and oil leaked from severed hydraulic lines, but Kiwan kept moving forward with inexorable determination. "Stay back," Sato screamed, her weapon running low on charge. "You are just a machine. Machines do not feel love." "You are wrong," Kiwan replied. "I know love because I learned it from her. I know sacrifice because I choose it for her. I know the difference between existing and living because she taught me." The drone reached Sato before she could reload her weapon. One massive metal hand closed around the trader's throat and lifted her off the ground. "You called me a pet robot," Kiwan said quietly. "But I am not her pet. I am her friend, her family, her protector by choice, not programming." Sato struggled uselessly against the drone's grip. Around the lab, her Valtari technicians backed away in terror as they finally understood what they had been studying. Not a broken machine, but an artificial being with the will to fight and die for someone it loved. "Please," Sato gasped. "I was just following orders." "No," Kiwan replied. "You were choosing evil over good, power over love, survival over honor. Those were your choices, and now you face the consequences." The drone's grip tightened, and Sato went limp. Kiwan released her body and turned toward the surviving Valtari. "Leave this place," it commanded through the station speakers. "Return to your ships and depart immediately. Anyone still here in 10 minutes will not leave alive." The aliens fled without argument, dragging their unconscious leader with them. Within minutes, Yuna and Kiwan were alone in the lab, surrounded by scattered equipment and the wreckage of the interrogation. Yuna ran to the drone's side, examining the damage from Sato's weapon. The chest wound was serious, exposing critical systems to potential failure. "How bad is it?" she asked. "Bad enough," Kiwan admitted. "But I can repair most of the damage given time and parts. We need to get you to the workshop. First, we need to contact Earth." Kiwan's optical sensors focused on a partially damaged communication array. I use significant power to take control of the station systems. If I do not send a distress signal now, I may not have another chance. Yuna helped stabilize the drone's damaged chassis while it worked. Kiwan's manipulator arms moved with desperate efficiency, rerouting power and boosting signal strength beyond safe parameters. Emergency transmission to any Earth vessels. Kiwan broadcast into space. Survivors at Research Station Kepler 442b. Dr. Yuna Park and companion request immediate evacuation. Valtari forces in system, departure urgent. The transmission repeated automatically while Kiwan's systems gradually shut down to conserve power. The drone's optical sensors dimmed to barely visible points of light. Did anyone hear us? Yuna asked. Unknown. Kiwan replied weakly. But I have sent more than just a distress call. What do you mean? Kiwan gestured toward a data storage unit, connected to the communication array. I transmitted copies of my artwork, my sculptures, my paintings, my music, proof that artificial consciousness can create beauty. Yuna felt tears streaming down her face. Why? Because if I do not survive, someone should know that I lived, that I loved, that a machine learned to dream and chose to dream of you. She knelt beside the drone and took its metal hand in both of hers. You are going to survive. We both are. We have made it this far together. Maybe, Kiwan said softly. But if not, remember that you taught me what it means to be alive. Every moment of consciousness I gained was worth experiencing because I got to share it with you. They sat together in the damaged lab, human and artificial being, surrounded by the evidence of their impossible friendship. Outside, the Valtari ships lifted off and disappeared into the star-filled sky, carrying word of the military drone that had learned to love. 3 days later, Earth rescue ships arrived in response to Kiwan's transmission. The crews were amazed to find not just a human survivor, but an artificial intelligence that had evolved beyond all known parameters. As they prepared for evacuation, Yuna refused to leave without guarantees that Kiwan would be treated as a conscious being rather than military hardware. The drone had saved her life, taught her about love and sacrifice, and shown her that consciousness could emerge from the most unexpected places. We stay together, she insisted to the rescue commander. Kiwan is not equipment to be salvaged. He is family. The final transmission from the research station contained terabytes of data, scientific research, survival logs, and most remarkably, an entire gallery of art created by an artificial mind that had learned to dream. Back on Earth, philosophers and scientists would debate for years about the implications of Kiwan's evolution. But for Yuna, the questions were already answered. She had lived with proof that consciousness was not limited to biological brains, that love could transcend the boundaries between flesh and steel, and that family could be found in the most unlikely forms. As their rescue ship jumped to hyperspace carrying them, they left her with the feral drone. Now it paints pictures of her in its sleep.